It is News Radio 1029 KARN. I am your host, Brad Schmidt. This, of course, is The Schmidt Show. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. 501-403-KARN is the phone number, 501-403-5276. If you happen to be blessed with the circumstance of having been from Bossier City, Louisiana, 501-403-KARN. Let's get into a lot of the things we need to talk about. There is more going on than we're probably going to have time to get to today. Many years ago, when I was getting, my feet wet in the world of radio, in 2016, now almost 9 years ago, 8.5-ish years ago, Donald Trump began his run for the presidency, and technically it was in 2015, but he began his run for the presidency and was diligently campaigning, doing all of the things that he could do. He then gets elected, of course, defeats Hillary Clinton, and spends the next 4 years in the White House doing presidential kind of stuff as the president. And he got defeated. And it was always a bit frustrating to me that as it related to my job as a talk radio host, the stories, no matter what they were, always came back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump was always the talking point. Now, it wasn't that I had any sort of special hatred for Donald Trump. It's just that as a radio host, you do from time to time like to have other topics to talk about. So prior to Donald Trump becoming the president and kind of dominating the news cycle for the next 4 years, prior to that, the big story in the town that I was in was that the local university was in hot water with the NCAA because of their mascot. Their mascot was the Fighting Sioux, the University of North Dakota Fighting Sioux. And the NCAA deemed that the Fighting Sioux logo, the Fighting Sioux mascot, was, quote, hostile and abusive. And it was a constant topic of conversation. And I used to joke that when I first started doing radio, you didn't really have to have any show prep done. You could just turn on the microphone and say, so the UND Fighting Sioux logo, hostile and abusive, what do you think? Give me a call. And you could do a 3-hour radio show on that statement alone. And it just got very irritating as a host to talk about the same thing over and over again. And here we are now into 2024, nearly 8 years since Donald Trump was elected president the first time around. And Donald Trump still dominating the headlines. And I remember even telling my general manager after the 2020 election that even though I was disappointed that Joe Biden was going to be our new president, I remember joking with him and saying, but at least we won't have to talk about Donald Trump anymore. Boy, was I wrong, because here we are now 4 years later, still talking about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump still dominating the headlines in all kinds of ways, not just on a national scale, but even still on an international scale as the various summits and things are going on, and Joe Biden's traveling to, where is he, in Italy now? And Donald Trump's still a part of that conversation, even though he's not the president. But of course he is running. And then of course the court cases and all that kind of stuff. And now, like I said, nearly 4 years later, after I made the joke with a coworker that at least we don't have to talk about Donald Trump anymore, we're still talking about him. And today, one of the big news stories of the day is that Donald Trump has met with some folks at the House Republican leadership, what do they call it? The Capitol Hill Club. He was there, met with them, and had a kind of a general rambling conversation apparently with them about a lot of different topics. And again, dominating the conversation. Our dementia-ridden Alzheimer's patient of a president is embarrassing himself in dragging his general state of confusion all across the globe. The videos of him at this G7 conference are, I mean, it's genuinely embarrassing. I remember when the Dixie Chicks, right? They were doing a concert in England or something like that, and they made the statement about being embarrassed that George W. Bush was our president or whatever. I wonder how they feel about watching Joe Biden stumble around lost in an open meadow kind of thing where there was some parachutists apparently doing some sort of presentation, and every one of the other world leaders is paying attention and enjoying whatever presentation is being set before them. And Joe Biden is literally, and this is not an exaggeration, he is literally turned at a 90-degree angle from everyone else. Literally every other person at this event are looking at something other than what Joe Biden is looking at, because he doesn't seem to have any understanding of where he is and what is happening right in front of him. And he begins to kind of wander off, and some other, I don't know if it was an aide or some other world leader that I didn't recognize or whatever, but some lady has to kind of go up and grab him and get his attention and turn him back towards whatever was happening in front of him. It's literally become an embarrassment to watch our president on a global stage meeting with other global leaders as he stutters and slurs his way through whatever speech that's been written down on cards for him over the weekend or the other night, whatever it was. Kevin McCarthy was on some Talking Heads TV show on Fox or CNN or wherever he was on, and was joking about how President Biden couldn't really do any sort of genuine discussion or debate as it related to any of the things that they were in negotiation about with the House unless it was on the cards. These cards that his staff apparently puts together for him. So Kevin McCarthy was joking about it was one of his tactics, that Joe would start reading from the card and he would intentionally interrupt him in the middle of reading what was ever on the card, because he knew that Joe Biden wouldn't be able to respond to anything other than what was written on the card. And it was a tactic that he intentionally used to confuse him and prevent him from having a successful negotiation with the House of Representatives on whatever topic they were discussing. And I mean, like I said, it is genuinely embarrassing to see where our president is and recognize what kind of declined state of cognition he's in. And I say all of this, and I bring all of this up because to acknowledge that, as frustrating as it is as a radio host, to literally be stuck on the same topic now for almost 80% of my career as a radio host, having to kind of rehash the same discussions over and over again. I would still prefer to have Donald Trump be on a world stage meeting with these world leaders than Joe Biden. And for the life of me, I can't understand how anyone would genuinely believe that Joe Biden will be or is more effective or more capable of engaging global leaders at this level. Now, there's more to this discussion, and we'll get into this today, this event, because some of the things that Donald Trump talked about, you heard in one of the news reports, I think it was from Fox News, you heard one of them mentioning that there was another representative said, well, Donald Trump was talking about terrorism, and that was intriguing. And the hint, the undercurrent of that, the underlying message in that is terrorism isn't a problem. Donald Trump is clueless. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Why is he talking about terrorism? The issue is inflation. The issue is the border crisis. The issue is Ukraine. The issue is Israel. Why is he talking about terrorism? That's a George Bush era talking point. Well, guess what? It might not actually be an irrelevant talking point, because the last couple of days I've been mentioning this and we haven't been able to get to the topic, but Donald Trump may be onto something. He may actually be talking about a very, very relevant topic. So we'll get into that, along with talking about his meeting with the GOP House leaders, as well as a few local things. Little Rock, city of Little Rock apparently has hired a new, quote, chief homelessness officer. What do they even do? And we'll get into that as well. And all of it coming up right here on News Radio 102.9 KRN, live from the LeVar Law Studios.